There's a little bit of
Yeah.
a delay, so for about the first 10 seconds, I don't say anything important. It looks like we're now properly live. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to go through temperaments and interaction style. And I think these are quite well explained. And so, interestingly enough, on one of Dario's tests, he gives secondary temperament. And I got artisan as my secondary temperament. So it'd be interesting going through these, seeing, we know what your first one is, but seeing how they stack up.
Mm-hmm.
So then, do you want to read through the one on the left and then stop and comment?
Yeah, sure. Did you have it blurred out because this is trademarked?
No, that's because you don't know which is which. Also, so the audience doesn't know which is which.
Oh, okay.
You probably know which is which, but it's so the audience doesn't.
I haven't seen this yet, but I might be able to figure it out. Okay,
Yeah.
So the first one, the blank temperament. The core needs are for the meaning and significance that come from having a sense of purpose and working towards some greater good. They need to have a sense of unique identity. They value unity, self-actualization, and authenticity. People of this temperament prefer cooperative interactions with a focus on ethics and morality. They tend to trust their intuition and impressions first, and then seek to find the logic and data to support them. Given their need for empathic relationship, they learn more easily when they can relate to the instructor and the group. Okay.
So, how close is that to you? I mean,
I can actually relate a lot to that one. Some parts of it, not as much.
No.
I feel more individualistic than wanting to relate to the group. But yeah, working towards a greater good, authenticity. I can relate to that. Value unity. I mean, to an extent.
Right. Interesting. Now, it's going to be interesting how you relate to this next one. Because...
Okay, yeah, I think I already know this one. The first line. The core needs are for group membership and responsibility. They need to know they are doing the responsible thing. They value stability, security, and a sense of community. They trust hierarchy and authority, and may be surprised when others go against these social structures. People of this temperament prefer cooperative actions with a focus on standards and norms. Their orientation is to their past experiences, and they like to see things sequenced and structured. They tend to look for the practical applications of what they are learning. I mean, again, I can relate to some things on there, but I don't think that's the kind of one.
I mean, you know which one that is, and apparently that one is that temperament.
That one's the most popular one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the. Like I said, you've already read. You already read Please Understand Me Too. So the Guardian on the right, and in Keirsey theory, that is the furthest away from the rational temperament because it's both because it's both cooperative and concrete in language. For example, the rationals share abstract thought with the idealists. And they share an adaptive, i.e. utilitarian approach with the artisans. So artisans and rationals both think for themselves, do things their own way. So we'll go on to the next two. And so, so for instance here, you got the cooperative actions thing. Now I'll just say in order to remind, because the audience might not have seen the last one, and I feel I have to talk about this every time it comes up, and it says that idealists, NFs, are cooperative, because as we know, they have that FI thing going on, where they very much go with their own values. The question is, when it comes to the way they go about their work and interactions with other people, do they tend to have a cooperative approach? And
Ben, are you getting cutting out in the video?
Yeah, I've had this when I was in an event and somebody else hosted it. It never actually came out in the finished thing. Okay. So if I cut out too much, I can repeat what I said. So when you were at university and there were a lot of NFs there, what did you think about their interaction? Was there a tendency for them to like did they want you to get with the program?
Actually, yes. Like I'm remembering back to when I was at university, some of the clubs I was in, I think there was definitely some NFs in the clubs I happened to be in, and even though they are individualistic, there was kind of like everyone get on the same page. This is how we do things, kind of thing. This is this is our ideal, but everybody has the same ideal.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, and that would be an NT club or an SP club wouldn't be like that. So there is this weird, this interesting contradiction between the FI thing of being authentic to themselves, but then also this cooperative group approach. And that's going to be one of these things that varies a lot by Enneagram. Like 9 is going to be the most group oriented. 4 is going to be very individual, especially if you put a 5 in there as well. 4, 5. A 6 is going to have ambivalent feelings about the group. They're going to want the group to be something they can look up to and be a part of, but if they feel that it's not up to their, because they have very suspicious nature, they might see that the group is not, and they see contradictions. So for instance, they might see a difference between what the group professes itself to be and then what it actually does in its actions. So it might criticize it that way, because it's like the 6 really wants an authority, and they want the authority to be something worthy of looking up to, because they want that good thing to follow, because they have that doubt about themselves. So Sanna's listening in. Have I said anything wrong? Anything that needs correcting?
Not really. I mean,
high praise.
I don't think so. There were some parts that I didn't hear, so
okay.
Disclaimer, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I was just trying to show that difference between how NFs are cooperative, but not like SJs. SJs are more cooperative.
What did you say about 4?
I said 4 because it's more individual, certainly compared to, say, the 9 or the 6. And I said with that 5 wing there, the 4 might be a little bit more, because it's like
a social 4 versus like sexual 4. The social.
Oh yeah.
Want to fit in more.
So for example, they've got their unique identity. Well, the more they go with the group, the more they become like somebody else. I remember this line in a Twilight Zone episode. I thought it was so 4. It was something like, "Isn't being like everybody else the same as being nobody?" What a 4-ish line. It was something like, it was something. I can't remember. I'm terrible at remembering lines. It's in this book, and I remember, and I can't remember what it's called. The episode. First digression of the evening. Number 12 looks just like you. Right, I'm gonna look. Number 12 looks just like you. That was it. Number 12 just looks like you. Page 165. No, actually, page 400. Right. Here we go. Did I write it down? I think I wrote it down. Oh no, I can't believe that killer line. I didn't write it down. Yeah. So yeah, isn't being like everybody the same as being nobody? I suppose that could be a thought process of the 4.
I have it, the quote.
Ah, you have it?
Yeah,
What's the
quote?
I
say it?
Yeah.
But is that good, being like everybody? I mean, isn't that the same as being nobody?
How did you find that quote so quickly? Give me your resources.
Just NT things. I just did a Google search.
Shows you how. Yeah. Well, hopefully you didn't get the spot. That's a really good episode. That is. Season 4. I skipped ahead. Right. So probably the bit that you relate to here, practical applications of what they're learning, because this is something that's interesting to me. So if we look at things from a functional point of view, but then if we look at things from a temperament point of view, so we could look at that and say, oh, STJs, they've got good TE. But I am willing to state that, and we could ask Sana about this, are SFJs better at TE stuff than NFJs? Or maybe certain kinds.
Can you repeat that? Which two types?
SFJs versus NFJs.
NFJ.
Because I'm thinking about how the temperament plays into it.
I mean, you are describing two types. Two temperaments that are really bad at it anyway. So.
You think all SJs are bad at TE?
Oh wait, I was thinking of I was thinking of socionics also. Well, I mean, it depends on what they type in socionics.
I might put it differently. Maybe the SI stuff helps them with TE.
Well, I don't feel comfortable making a generalization.
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, the way I see it is, for the more ambitious kind of TE, like I would think ENFJ is going to be better at that than ESFJ. But with that sort of kind of work ethic that SFJs have, and I mean, NFJs are more in their head than SFJs. TE requires quite a bit of being in the world, being more outside of your head, because you're applying your thinking. I frequently bring up the example of comparing ISFJ, Keirsey-ISFJ, and SEI to IEI, Keirsey-INFJ, in comparing their TE breaks, in that, if we then compare those two types, it's like, how are they different in terms of TE? And I find that interesting.
Yeah, you're mixing so many systems here that I can't really.
Okay, I'll put it differently, Sana. How are SEI and IAI different in their TE breaks?
They both suck.
Yeah, they both suck, but are they both? Do they suck in the same way at TE?
Well, they're going to focus on different aspects in life in general.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, they're going to look different, but I don't know if when it comes to the actual TE stuff, and here would be nice to have like an example.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's going to be a visible difference there.
Yeah, the reason why I bring this up is to show the influence of temperaments. So,
well, give me an example. Give me an example of some kind of activity.
An example of what?
Some kind of activity where.
Right. Well, with logistics. So Guardians are very good at logistics, and Keirsey breaks that down into monitoring and providing.
Okay.
So what I'm thinking is that the SI helps quite a bit with the TE.
Well, SI is, I mean, SI and socionics is just like what's comfortable. I have a hard time seeing how it would help.
Well, okay. So, in order to provide resources and to protect somebody, you actually have to do physical stuff in order to get to that end result.
So the sensory aspect of it would, you think the sensory aspect would take the person outside themselves?
Yeah, and also, I mean, you know that even from a socionics point of view, the alpha SFs tend towards things that involve sensory care of people, and that kind of stuff is a big overlap with the Keirsey providing half of the logistical intellect.
Right.
So, and you then start getting in, and then you start getting into, well, it's not that different from providing care, providing resources, looking after people, to then doing more kind of other kind of resources. And it's just this difference between the logistical intellect and the diplomatic intellect, because the NFJs are more interested in the psychological welfare of the people, and the SFJs are more interested in the physical welfare of the people.
Right, I get your point. But at the end, this is a matter of, I mean, you're looking at the person's absolute worst aspect. So does it really matter if you're like a fraction better there?
Well, I was
still gonna suck.
I was just wondering how it becomes expressed, because what I'm sort of thinking is, so for example, what I think SEI is really bad at in terms of TE is the kind of TE that INTJ does, where it's like these long-term strategic projects that involve quite a bit of risk and vision. SEI is not going to want to do that. But the more conservative kind of TE, such as running a corner shop, ordering all the stuff, getting all the orders right, all that kind of stuff, I think ISFJ can do that better than INFJ. They've got the mentality to do the boring stuff well.
Yeah, I mean, if you have SI combined with TE and NI combined with TE, yes, one of the types is going to be better at it, because at least you have half of it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they're good at doing the boring stuff. Right then, and again, you get a bit of temperament thing coming in, where SJs are about duty, even when they don't like it. So a little bit of a digression there, but it shows the influence of temperament. Right then, this will be very interesting when we do this with BT on Saturday. See how it relates to the one in the bottom left. Over to you, Ruth.
Okay. All right, so the core needs are for mastery of concepts, knowledge, and competence. People of this temperament want to understand the operating principles of the universe and learn or even develop theories for everything. They value expertise, logical consistency, concepts, and ideas, and seek progress. They tend towards pragmatic, utilitarian actions with a technology focus. They trust logic above all else. They tend to be skeptical and highly value precision in language. Their learning style is conceptual, and they want to know the underlying principles that generate the details and facts rather than the details alone.
This would be interesting for you, because you resemble a 5 in Enneagram. And NT in so do you like, is there anything on the left that you don't agree with?
I mean, I'm gonna say I agree with all of it. There's parts of it that I'm like, I mean, it says like utilitarian actions with a technology focus. I'm not sure what they mean by technology focus.
Yeah. Utilitarian is a little bit awkward in that, because it's got multiple meanings, because there's like the philosophical meaning, but The way
Keirsey, like you want to do the best for everybody.
Yeah, but the way Keirsey means it is in the context where they'll say something like a utilitarian approach to cooking for the family would be like the most basic stuff that gets the job done.
Oh, okay, like the most optimal. Yeah, definitely.
So that kind of thing. Not really about appearance. It's about effectiveness.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I don't know what it means by a technology focus.
Well, NT is usually interested in technology. So, for example, and they're interested in technology before it becomes really useful. So, for instance, in the 1960s with computers, most of the people working in computers are going to be NTs. Then it starts getting useful and moves into big business, where it's like they'll have the computers in like the big systems, and again it's usually but when it's something useful, then it starts getting used by people in the, and then eventually it gets into the homes. When it's like a practical use or something that becomes enjoyable. But initially, I had to be a mathematician to use a computer. So it's like those kind of people that are interested in it anyway, and any kind of benefit. And I think the NTs at the time were thinking about the potential of computers rather than what it's actually useful
I can see
for
that.
right
Computers
now.
and machines can do things faster and more efficiently. So I understand the technology part. They trust logic above all else. I guess that's true. I don't know how much you can trust logic, and I don't know how much above everything else it would be, but don't they trust their intuition above all else?
Well, this is an interesting thing to me about the INTJ type pattern. From a temperament point of view, they're all just like NFs are about authenticity. NTs are about reason. It's like the age of reason. They are about reason. And like ENTPs hate it as long as everything is reasoned and everything is internally consistent. They are about reason, but we know that INTJs are private people and they have that NI thing going on. So maybe they don't want to talk about it. Now, I think the clearest example of this is somebody like Isaac Newton, where his persona is like Mr. Total Reason, like Mr. Complete Reason, but he had this double life where he was an alchemist and into this sort of like mystical stuff.
Oh, really? I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe with the INTJ, you've got this temperament thing, which is reason, logic. And then you've got this other half of them, which is like mystical kind of NI stuff. And it's like that half of them that's about rationality in the scientific sense isn't quite happy with this other half of them. Or they don't want to talk about it. Have you said, I think you might have said that. Do you like have stuff? Do you think you're less likely to talk about your NI stuff than, say, the NFJs?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear what the question was because the video was cutting out.
Do you think you're less likely to talk about your NI stuff than the NFJs? Because you might think it's not scientific. It's that part of me that's not scientific.
I think there's certain people who I would talk with it about, but in most circumstances, I would keep that hidden or not want to talk about it because I don't really fully understand it myself, and I wouldn't want to talk about something if I don't have any idea what it is.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And it's hard to understand.
Yeah, that's the thing, and the rationals really do want to understand. Now, what I find interesting with this, another aspect, and something we're going to have to be careful of, is comparing that on the left to the 5 pattern. And with the 5, you would have to take out all the stuff about the theoretical aspect and the abstraction in order to get the core part of the 5, in order to allow, say, sensory 5s to come in, because it's about mastery. So I would say the focus on logic, that would be part of the 5 description. Expertise, logical consistency would be part of the 5.
Yeah. Confidence is the first sentence. That's a big one.
Pragmatic might be logic above all else. That would go in the 5, I think. Yeah, that one about skeptical and highly value precision in language.
I put that in
the 5. Now, this stuff about conceptual, I don't want to put stuff in that is for the abstract 5s.
That's more intuitive.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That wouldn't do like an ISTJ 5.
Yeah, exactly. Or even ISTP 5. Right, the underlying principles that generate the details and facts rather than the details alone. Now, Berens herself, best fit type INTP. So she works quite a bit. So that's interesting to separate those two out, especially when you've got, say, if you're interviewing somebody who you know is a 5 and you think they're a sensing type, you have to make sure that they're identifying it with it for the right reasons, because they might, like, say, identify with the 5 aspects of this rather than the other. So it's like weeding out those little differences to like find out, because there is a little bit of an overlap there between the NT and the 5. It's just that we have to sift out the stuff to do with abstraction. Right then. This one's interesting. So
on the right?
The artisan one.
Artisan. Okay. The core needs are to have the freedom to act without hindrance and to see a marked result from action. People of this temperament highly value aesthetics, whether in nature or art. Their energies are focused on skillful performance, variety, and stimulation. It heads towards pragmatic, utilitarian actions with a focus on technique. They trust their impulses and have a drive to action. They learn best experientially, and when they see the relevance of what they are learning to what they are doing. They enjoy hands-on, applied learning with a fast pace and freedom to explore.
Now, is there anything in there that you would like, any of those aspects that are not like you, but you would like to do? Are there any bits in there that you find admirable?
Yeah, I think the whole approach is kind of opposite of the one on the left. The one on the left wants to kind of like learn things first and then take action. The one on the right takes action. And let me see, how do they word it? It says when it has a relevance of what they are learning to what they are doing. So they they take action first, but it has to be important to what they are learning. So I don't know if you understand how I say it. They're like kind of opposite in a way.
The way I'm thinking, because this is what I'm trying to do. So because INTJ has this suggestive extroverted sensor, the stuff on the right, Dario would be like really aspirational for. So for instance, this bit about skillful performance, variety, stimulation. I mean, even Sana here, she wants that. She's gearing towards that. The ability to act, trust their impulses and have a drive to action. Is that something that you would like to have?
Yeah, definitely.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because I think they're not held back by their need to have things make sense before they do it.
Right. So this is one of the things that someone do. Say if you're typing somebody using this, say you got an idea that they're an NT, have them look at the one on the right and see how they relate to it in order to see if they are suggestive for extroverted sensor.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
No, those kind of things. So now we can move on to something that you'd be, well, actually, I mean, the audience is less. So, and also there's going to be a little bit of a difference there with in the way, say, an INTP resembler would react to that with the SE break. It's like, then you can sort of ask follow-up questions about, oh, do they like to be impulsive? And it's like, see if the SE break comes out through the way. Because in a way, the artisan temperament is like I mean, Dario has distilled it into extroverted sensor. Like the way Dario defines it is like an essence of artisan. Like it's like it's a fragrance. Right. So if we go through these two, actually it might, yeah. I was going to try and change up the order there, but it might be best to go through, see how you relate to these. I'll just move that mouse. Cursor.
Did you want me to read this?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And you can stop at any point to comment.
Okay. So, okay, on the left. The theme is having a course of action to follow. People of this style focus on knowing what to do and keeping themselves, the group, or project on track. They prefer to enter a situation having an idea of what is to happen. They identify a process to accomplish a goal and have somewhat contained tension as they work to create and monitor a plan. The aim is not the plan itself, but to use as a guide to move things along towards the goal. Their informed and deliberate decisions are based on analyzing, outlining, conceptualizing, or foreseeing what needs to be done. So this is within a group.
Yeah, so how do you relate to that?
Let's see. Yeah, I can relate to this one. So they want to know ahead of time what the goals are before they get started. They have a course of action to follow. Okay, so they want to know what to do to keep themselves, the group, and the project on track.
Yeah. Do you do that? Do you have a focus on planning things out, charting the course?
I think yes, for myself, but I don't know how much I'd want to keep everyone else on track. I think that's kind of their business.
Interesting. Okay, for yourself though, just considering you, say you're acting on your own, do you think you pretty much line up with what's on the left?
I think yeah, but I'm going to read the other ones.
Right. Okay, let's see how you go on with the other one.
Okay, so on the right, the theme is getting the best result possible. People of this style focus on understanding and working with the process to create a positive outcome. They see value in many contributions and consult outside inputs to make an informed decision. They aim to integrate various information sources and accommodate differing points of view. They approach others with a quiet, calm style that may not show their strong convictions. Producing, sustaining, defining, and clarifying are always the support a group's process. They typically have more patience than most with the time it takes to gain support through consensus for a project or to refine the result. I can relate quite a bit to this one. like seeing things from different angles, seeing the value of many contributions, getting various information sources. Yeah, I can agree with that. I was kind of agreeing with it up until like the last section. They typically have more patience than most with time it takes to gain support through consensus for a project or to refine the result. I don't know how much patience I would have with that. I might not want to even do a project if I have to wait to get like support for it.
Right, interesting. So you can see that the one on the right is more accommodating.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I even put it there, accommodate different points of view. So Keirsey calls the one on the left the confrontative contenders, and then the ones on the right, the responsive accommodators. Now, a couple of things will stick out here. So when it's got producing, sustaining, defining, and clarifying, producing relates to ISFP, sustaining relates to ISFJ, defining relates to INTP, clarifying relates to INFP. So we've got clarifying values, and it's going to be like producing products and sustaining others, like SI kind of stuff. And then on the left, you've got analyzing. All right, so right, analyzing, actually Berens puts that analyzer operator, ISTP. Outlining might be ISTJ. Conceptualizing is INTJ. Foreseeing is INFJ. So in the previous hangout, in previous events in this series, Hannah chose the one on Sana chose the one on the left. Hannah's a different thing.
Well, as I recall, I was relating to quite a few on both sides.
Yeah.
I can relate a lot to where it says on the left, the aim is not the plan itself, but to use it as a guide towards moving things towards the goal. I can relate to that a lot because I think as you work on something, things may change along the way, and you have to be ready for that.
Yep. And so there's going to be a difference there between ISTJ and INTJ, Keirsey ISTJ, and that is they're not as comfortable when the plan has to be changed. Whereas,
well, you might get new information along the way. So
yeah, that's the thing. It's almost as if INTJ is more goal focused and ISTJ is more process focused in order to get towards that goal. And so, as you said, you can adapt the plan to achieve the goal because you're focused on the goal. And so you've got the NI working with the TE, whereas ISTJ's got the SI working with the TE. And it's like they want to, and they're a little bit more six-ish. ISTJ, so they want to go with what they know. What's tried and true. Create and monitor the plan. STJ is being, ISTJ being a monitor, an inspector. Right, a contained tension is the work to create and monitor a plan. So one of the things Berens talks about with, so she calls the one on the left chart the course, and she calls the one on the right behind the scenes. And a theme of that is, here's an example. Carol Linden says when she worked in a software, she said there was a big sort of like difference of point of view between sort of like the NTJ management and the NTPs. And the NTPs would want to keep working on it to get it right. They never actually got it done because they were refining it because trying to get to the best possible result. The NTJs are like, get it done. We need this thing done.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. And also what can happen with NTP is they can over-design things. Over-engineer things.
Mm-hmm.
In the search for the best result.
You make it too good. Too many features.
So if you see the difference between, because the focus of INTP is the design, and then the inventor is turning that design into a prototype. So it's about making the best design, and this is something I've just come up with now, in terms of this next bit that's going to leapfrog off from that. But the focus of the NTJs and INTJ is, what is that design for? Does it achieve the purpose that it was designed for? Whereas the NTPs might take their eye off that board of what this actually is designed for and end up over-designing it. And it's like, is it good enough to get the job done? Yes, move on. Whereas the NTP wants to make it as good as possible. So you see that difference there between INTJ, that it's good enough. Move on.
I think they both have good applications. Like, so like the one on the right would be, they'd want to make the thing as good as possible, but not necessarily what the goal is. So they might add on, like, say it's a product that it has to run correctly, but they also make it look really beautiful, or do like really good packaging for it. Is that something that might be something that type does?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, because also what you get is the role that these people in affects how they, because they have to adapt to the role that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
So we did some hangouts with Enrique. INTJ was Ember, ILI was Ember, Keirsey-INTJ, NiTx, and he looks for errors in other people's code in software development. So there is that point, though, I think, in comparing ILI, Keirsey-INTJ, in comparing NiTx with TINX, I think that with the NiTx, they've got that business logic in, where it's like, okay, this is good enough for the purpose. The business logic, this is good enough. And INTP, TINX might just go, let's make it better and better and better and better and refine it. Right. I know. I sort of repeated myself there, but I think the reason why I repeated myself is I tried to put it better each time.
Okay.
Right. Oh yes. So, and the other part of the ones on the right is the idea of integrating many inputs. So maybe with ISFJ, maybe this is the needs of various people. That's the hardest one to sort of like work out with the inputs thing. ISFJ can be quite nine-ish in their accommodation. ISFP, if you see it with the way they work in art or music, they want integration. So they want all of the aspects of their product to be integrated, so that it's all okay. So say in a song, right, if you've got a part of a song where it becomes a little bit dark, a little bit moody, a little bit unstable, then you want other aspects to reflect that, in terms of the rhyme structure being unstable, the length of the lines being unstable. And so Pat Patterson calls that prosody. It's all adding up to get the same. So, for example, a simple way of putting it is, if you have a dramatic moment in a movie, you have the dramatic music to amp it up. If you have a dramatic moment and then you have music that sort of undercuts that, you've not got the prosody there, the composition. So,
have you ever heard of like a song with really dark lyrics and like an upbeat tune though?
Yes, I have.
Could you say that person is probably not like an ISFP?
There's weird. There's one called "Not for the Cavalry," which was a British Christmas song.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, the way they did that was to hide the darkness of the lyrics, because it was about how bad World War One was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was sort of done with this sort of jolly tune, like done in a jolly way. But it was really dark lyrics. So it was like, I'll have to link that. I'll link this in the description. I will find it now. Was it something like Christmas? Is it something like, if I put Christmas song cavalry, right, that might come up, and I'll put it in the side chat. That's it. Stop the Cavalry. Now, if you play it and it appears on the, I'll get in terrible trouble. So I'm gonna put this in the side chat for people. And then Walter Wiseman, who's watching now, Walter, if you listen to this, please, you can get back to me on the lyrics, where the idea of the lyrics being darker than the actual music. Right. There he is. Hopefully he'll do me a solid and listen to that. Right. So you can see how this is like it gives a nice little structure for me to talk about things.
Mm-hmm.
Right, thanks, Walter. So integration. So INTP and INFP. TI and X. Well, look what I'm trying to do with typology, integrating all of the systems, and then I get upset when it doesn't fit. I want it to fit, same. Look at things from different angles. Now, improving...
That's like an impossible feat, though, because everybody is so different, so you're not going to be able to do that.
Hey, don't burst my bubble with realism. But it's also, this is part of the way INTPs remember stuff. Victor said when he compared NiTx. Sanai, whenever I say NiTx, I mean ILI. And when I say TIX, I mean LII. These are the same. Right. So when he compared NiTx and TINX, he said that in order for the TINX, the analyst to remember stuff, they need to fit it into a schema. And I thought, yes, that's exactly right. So when I was at university, if it was a big process all linked together, I could remember it a lot better than when it was lots of separate bits of information, such as toxicology. And I've been reading in the Improving Your Memory for Dummies book about tries to cover it from all the angles and about fitting it to previous knowledge. And if you can fit it to previous knowledge, you've got more connections so if you can connect the new information to your existing information, you've got more connections to it, and it helps you to remember it. So that's part of the way INTP resembles work, is integrating stuff, finding connections between different fields. And so we've got there, they aim to integrate various information sources and accommodate different points of view.
Oh yeah, that's right. So you. So
even in this hangout, right? We're doing. Did you say that's so me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So it's like integrating the functions with Keirsey and sort of balancing them out, though, because they have different strengths, right? Because if you go too far in one direction or the other, integrating them. Also, now with INFP, FINX, somebody like, especially with the 9, they're going to do a lot of integration. They're going to go to lots of different people to find all of their different points of view and try to integrate those values on something. And they're also going to do a lot of stuff with their own personal ethical system, bringing it into harmony. Otherwise, they will have cognitive dissonance. And INFP does not like to have cognitive dissonance. They like that. And it's also with the static versus dynamic types. The static types like to have their thoughts in balance, their theories in balance, like TINX. In balance, this fits with this fits with that. Nice, beautiful. INFP, they want a consistent moral framework. They don't want like an ENTP coming in there and pointing out a little contradiction. It's like, don't you dare point out a contradiction in my values. Because, again, the clarifier harmonizer for INFP. Because they're about being authentic. And if you're being authentic, you cannot have contradictions between yourself, the true self, and how you behave. But also, I think internally, you don't want, because if you have one belief that contradicts another belief, then isn't that going to throw in doubt your authenticity? Because you say contradictory. So they want it integrated. So you can see there the integration of, and also their interaction style. They want people to get on the same hymn sheet, sing off the same hymn sheet, integration. Okay, I don't know who that is. Right, the dissonance. The song, however, is satirical, funny, and serious. Well, yeah, but it's like World War I in there. People died. It was a horrible war. Right. Particularly horrible. Right, so which aspect,
do I agree with?
Yeah, or which aspects of both do you agree with? Sort of a summary of these two.
Okay. So on the left, I agreed with wanting to identify a process to accomplish a goal. And the aim is not the plan itself, but to use it as a guide to move things along towards the goal. Deliberate decisions, analyzing. I don't know if I do a lot of outlining. Definitely conceptualizing.
Yeah.
And foreseeing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing on here that I was not really in 100% agreement with was keeping everyone else on track, because I feel like that's kind of, I guess if I was in charge of the group, but I feel like just part of the group, I feel like that's kind of their own business. I don't want to tell somebody else what to do.
That's a little bit in Victor's profile with ALI, when it says on their territory they make a small scale supervisor. That's actually in the Victor's Model G ILI, because supervisee shift for ILI, TESE, which is LSE, ESTJ. On their territory, the INTJ can get extra directive. Say if they are put in a position where they are controlling something, they're going to want people to do it right. They're not going to be as trusting. Again, it's that directive nature. I can see the goal. Trust me. No, don't trust me. Just do as you're told and get to it. I'm not going to care about this harmony. Just get your jobs done.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think I want to. If I'm working with somebody else, I want to give them the freedom to do things their own way.
Yes, that is another part of it. I've just sort of contradicted myself there, but that is true. But you want, yes, you don't really have to micromanage them.
The thing, I want things to get done, but I don't really care how.
Ah, that's very utilitarian. That is the definition of how Keirsey does it. It's like, get it done and I don't care how. Whereas
it's ethical.
Guardians, they want it done right.
Yeah.
It's more about doing it in the right way. And then the stuff on the right, I think you especially didn't agree with the bit at the bottom, which was more about the patience and stuff.
The part about trying to gain support for consensus, I don't know, I just don't want to even bother with that.
Right.
I'll either decide to do it or not. I don't think I need anyone's support. But I definitely do value multiple sources of information and see value in the many contributions.
Right. Yeah, that might be a bit of a 5 thing as well. General research and that. I'm trying to look for the bits where it's in action, because the bits on the left that you identified with were particular in terms of action, things actually done, where the character is in action. So accommodating different points of view. What about, would you do that when it's with people, though?
Well, when you say different points of view, are we talking about like
say you're
logical
in a meeting.
Points of views, or different points of views, like relational?
What it would be is, if there's a meeting discussing how to do something, and you've got an INTJ who's over there and an INTP who's over there, and this can be explained in function terms. INTJ's FE break. They care less about the group harmony. They're more willing to argue things out.
Oh yeah.
INTP values FE. They don't like the conflict as much. They're SE break. They don't really want to have the heated arguments with people. So INTP is going to be more accommodating of other people's points of view in that meeting. Whereas INTJ would stick up more for what they think is right. And I'll bring some more functions in. With that NI, they've got a clearer vision of what the right thing to do is. INTP, with the TI and especially the NE, they can see many different ways of doing it. So it's like, oh, we could do it like that. Oh, we could do it like this. So it's like, oh, I've not really got a strong opinion on it. So again, they don't want the conflict. Defensive gesture. Oh, I've not really got a strong opinion. You see, I'm accommodating. That kind of thing. So that kind of thing would come out in the interaction style if you had those two types in a meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
I think for me, I wouldn't really want to start a debate just because it's going to take like a lot of energy to be debating somebody.
Yeah.
I can see differing. It seems like as though I want to know everybody's point of view, but I might not want to do things the way that they suggest. I just want to know. I just want to have more information. I'm going to decide to do things however I think is best.
Yeah. Right then. So this is where we're going to get some different. So I'll just say something about the functions involved in the I'll say that at the end. I'll say that about what the patterns are for the interaction styles. I'll write that down. If you go through the one on the left, I'll just make some notes about what I'll say.
Okay, one on the left. So this person, the theme is getting things. I'm sorry. Yeah, the theme is getting things accomplished through people. People of this style are focused on results, often taking action quickly. They often have a driving energy with intention to lead a group to the goal. They make decisions quickly to keep themselves and others on task, on target, and on time. They hate wasting time and having to backtrack. Mentoring, executing action, supervising, and mobilizing resources are all ways they get things accomplished. They notice...
Ruth, are you tapping?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. It's always louder than what you think when it's on a laptop because you've got the microphone there.
Sorry, I'm going to go back to where I was.
Yeah, sorry.
Where was I?
I can't remember. I was distracted by the tapping.
Sorry. I'll go back to the line before. They hate wasting time and having to backtrack. Mentoring, executing actions, supervising, and mobilizing resources are all ways they get things accomplished. They notice They notice right away what is not working in a situation and become painfully aware of what needs to be fixed, healed, or corrected. I mean, I can relate a little bit to this one, but I don't think I have that much drive.
That's the thing.
Being honest.
Right.
No.
So the one on the left, Berens calls that in charge. Keirsey calls it the preemptive initiators. They get stuff done quicker. They chart the course. It's like the name says, they want to chart the course out first. Half of them have got that lead NI. With INTJ and INFJ, they will think things through a bit more. The types on the left, and I'll reveal what they are later on, but they get stuff done quicker. I'm just writing down the patterns for informing and the functions.
Does this one on the left, they get things done fast, but do they have a system, or they have an outline of what needs to be done, or they kind of just go with the flow?
Would you want me to say which types they are?
Yeah, sure.
Right, okay. So we've got here mentor, ENFJ. There's one from each temperament. So ENFJ in the ultimate Keirsey is called the diplomatic initiator. This one here, executing actions, that is the tactical initiator, aka ESTP. They are the ones that act the quickest, can think the quickest, but also they can make mistakes through not thinking through the consequences. So in real pressurized situations such as war, surgery that requires really fast thinking, that's the right person for the job, and they're calm under pressure. And I'm going to do an event. When I've read the book written by Andy McNabb, who was a former member of SAS, Elite Special Force, and Kevin Dutton, and I found out a little bit more about Kevin Dutton. He said he wrote the stuff on the good psychopath and all that to help understand his father, and his father worked on a market stall. Now I know why he changed his voice when he talked to Andy McNabb. I thought maybe he was putting on a Cockney accent. He probably went back to his real accent when he talked to him. That was in Psychopath Night. Because, and again, the good psychopath is the good ESTP. Because he looked at all of the traits of, and he said, and he was saying that, looking at the positive traits of the psychopath. And I was like, hang on a minute, this sounds like an ESTP. Calmness under pressure, emotional detachment, and all these kind of things. And I'm going to go through that when I've done the book, and we're going to do a hangout on it. But it takes me a while to read books because I do things. First of all, it's hard to concentrate, and secondly, I read things in order to memorize it and integrate it and think about it. Right. So what else with the functions? Interestingly enough, FI max as well. 4. Right, so with those more, supervisor, ESTJ, logistical initiator. Get to work, you artisans. You need to be like, that's what it was like in Tanks Born in Russia with Yuri Gatan. It was like making sure the artisans weren't slacking off from work, going into a room to have a smoke, to look at this painting of a naked woman on the wall. And like, that's the kind of just slacking off. It's hardly a propaganda piece. It's like just makes a lot of the Russian workers look like lazy artisans who wouldn't get anything done if it wasn't for the Guardians like chivying them along. Yeah, that was an interesting series on RT, Tanks Born in Russia. One of the guys, Kirill, ESTP, said this: when you're smart, you're cunning. And I think a lot of ESTPs would take pride in being cunning. Because again, it's that tactical intelligence. What else have we got here? Mobilizing resources, ENTJ. Keirsey called it the mobilizer. I think Berens has got mobilizer in there. So yeah, so you've got, and they're all about getting stuff done quickly. ENTJ gets stuff done quickest out of all of the NTs. Not quite as quick as ESTP, but that's because ENTJ thinks through the consequences more. So, and they're people who, and also if you compare ENTJ with INTJ, ENTJ is prepared to fail more than INTJ. INTJ will plan things through for longer to avoid failure. ENTJ is prepared to take that risk. and if it doesn't work, move on to another project. But it's just that ESTP is more. So Keirsey gives the example of, Keirsey came up with 4 new groups when he wrote Personology in 2010, when it was published. He had the adaptive, I'll just talk about the adaptive enterprises for now, STPs and NTJs. Both of them, all 4 of those, STPs, NTJs, all 4 of those are directive and adaptive. So adaptive meaning utilitarian, whatever the means the ends justify the means. They will adapt their means, they will change quickly, they will go outside of standard operating procedure in order to achieve the goal and the directive. And Keirsey said that the NTJs, the STPs think quicker than the NTJs. And he gave the example of an organization where you got to cut a load of staff. He said the STPs, and especially ESTP, they will cut staff quicker than ENTJ. And Keirsey wrote, they will fire people before they can even mount a resistance. They're gone. But in acting so quickly, they can make mistakes through not thinking things through. And that's what ENTJ, they've got more of that strategic intellect, that long range planning intellect. The cat. It's a nice cat. Strategic intellect. What else? So again, they want the, Berens would say the achievable result in terms of minimum viable product, the result that fits the specification, the requirement. Is it good enough? If it's good enough, these 4 do it. That's their point of view. They're not like the behind the scenes ones where they want it to be perfect. They want it, is it good enough? Right, boom, get it done, move on to the next thing. Especially ESTP and ESTJ, if it's good enough, we don't need to make it better. We don't need to make better the enemy of good enough. And that was a saying in Russian equivalent that Sergei Gorshkov had on his wall, don't let the better be the enemy of good enough. Now, the other expression is, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. But really, you don't want the better being the enemy of good enough, because INTP are always going to want to make it better. But again, you're over-engineering. We don't need that. We don't need it to cost twice as much to make it 10% better. Right. I've come back to that point for the 4th or 5th time. So people, now the one on the right, this might be interesting to see how you relate to this.
Okay. So this one, the theme is persuading and involving others. They thrive in facilitator or catalyst roles and aim to inspire others and move to action, facilitating the process. Their focus is on the interaction, often with an expressive style. They get things going with upbeat energy, enthusiasm, or excitement, which can be contagious. Exploring options and possibilities, making preparations, discovering new ideas, and sharing insights are always, they get people moving along. They want decisions to be participative and enthusiastic with everyone involved and engaged.
Right.
Okay. So I don't think I am that person, but I admire that person.
Interesting. I would like to be which aspects of that
person.
Interesting. Which particular aspects do you admire?
Their energy and enthusiasm.
All right. So the jewel of INTJ is ESFP. And ESFP has this interaction style. Tactical collaborator. So it's all of the collaborators: diplomatic, logistical, tactical, and strategic collaborators. So we have here Some of these things, exploring options and possibilities. Which type do you think that is?
ENFP?
Yes, ENFP. Making preparations.
Making preparations.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you all four of them, and then you can link them up. So
ESFJ.
Yes, very good. ESFJ, the provider. Very good.
Okay.
Now, what about the next two?
Let's see, what were they? Discovering new ideas.
Yeah, and sharing insights.
ESTJ. No, which ones
That's
are
in
left?
charge. ESTJ is in charge.
I'm thinking that's a T.
Yeah, I think one of I think sharing insights.
Oh,
I think
ESTP?
discovering new.
No, that would definitely be.
The thing is, the one about sharing insights, that doesn't fit that brilliantly.
Mm-hmm.
That discovering new ideas would be ENTP, and then exploring options and possibilities, ENFP. You got that right. And making preparations, ESFJ. You got that one right. It's just that sharing insights isn't. You wouldn't immediately think ESFP for that.
Because I had to run out of ideas.
Yeah.
So I was like,
But you did well though, because you got exploring, you got the first two right. Yeah. So then these are the rules for working out interaction stuff. Have you got any more comments? That's interesting about that you like, because like I said, your jewel is ESFP.
Mm-hmm.
Dario very much admires ESFP and their qualities. If you want to know more, folks, buy 8 Keys to Self-Leadership to just see how his book just, it's like, what are his 4 favorite functions are. NI, TI, FI, and SE. So, I'm going to put this on screen. Let's try it like this. Directive. All the STs and NJs are directive. All the SFs and NPs are informer. So we can start to look for some patterns there. All the NI max types, so
so that's how we're doing it.
Yeah. And I mean, those are just the clearest ones from a functional point of view. And I'm just sort of explaining why NI has such a determining effect on interaction style. So NI, it sees the goal. So it's going to be directive. It knows what the direction is. They're good at seeing the direction. Is that fair to say? The NJs, NI ego types. So either NI lead or NI auxiliary.
Mm-hmm.
They see the direction to go in. So it makes sense that they're going to be directive because they know the direction with the NI.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interestingly, I've got that other point I've got to make. Yes. I'm just gonna put something there about NFJs, and then I'm gonna put something there about NTPs. Right, NTPs. I'll just put NFJ and NTP. Right. NFJs are the only directive feeling types. NFJs are the only directive feeling types. But they're directive for other people's good because they get into that mentoring role. So they are the only directive feelers. NTPs are the only informing thinkers. It's this. What does Max stand for? It's just like ego. It's like Model G, where you got the maximum energy column. It basically means either dominant or auxiliary. It's maximum energy in Model G. So informing SF and NPs. So, all right. So I should have put here NE max as well. Right.
So Ben, these people are mostly all the introverts?
Which ones?
Well, if it's NI or FI max.
Well, no. I mean, max it just means maximum energy. It means either basically it's the NJs. So the NJs have either NI first, INTJ, INFJ, or NI second, ENTJ, ENFJ.
Oh, okay.
An aspect of NI is the intuition of time and the intuition of which direction to go in.
Mm-hmm.
So they're directive because they have a good sense of direction. Now, NPs, they've got that NE. They see lots of different options. There's lots of different routes to take. So they're not going to be as directive because they're not. So I'm just sort of finding the functional links to explain the interaction styles in terms of functions, the patterns I notice. Although Berens pointed out these ones, SF, NP, ST, NJ, in her book, I'm just finding the functional patterns. I need to do a video on this in the future with Carol. So all the NPs have NE, first or auxiliary. So it makes sense. Lots of different options. They're not really going to direct people towards one of them because they don't really, many other ways. Could do it like this, could do it like that. I don't know. I'll give you loads of options. You choose. SFs. Now, again, they're all feelers. Now, somebody might think, what about ESFP and Keirsey-ISFP? Why are they not directive? They've got extroverted sensor. Why are they not directive? I think it's because of FI. Because one of the things that Berens talks about with informing is that it's a relationship that's on the same level. When someone is directive, you've got the director and the directee. It's a one up, one down relationship. Part of FI, to my mind, is about rapport. It's about connection with people. It's hard to get that when you're ordering them around. So I think it's part of the rapport and connection with people.
Yeah, wasn't that the one that's accommodating?
Yeah, but accommodating and get things going. So all of the FI, so basically all the FPs, all of the Keirsey FPs are going to be informing. So you're going to have ESFP, ISFP, ENFP, INFP. Because even though ESFP and ISFP have extroverted sensor, they're not using it to direct people, to control people. They're using it to resist being controlled.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because they're about freedom. As Jeff said, it can be an extroverted sensor, it can be about power, but it's always about freedom. FI, they want the connection, want the FI thing, they want the rapport. And you know about rapport from NLP.
Yeah.
And so it's that connection of similarity. Like I said, so if you want that connection with somebody...
That type
pardon?
Would you say that those types are well suited to use NLP?
Which ones? The
FI
SX?
Max. Yeah.
FI Max. We're having a little digression here, folks. But it's an interesting one. I'll put Ruth on camera and see better. Just like camera. So that is an interesting thing with NLP in terms of what's good at what. So we always have a little booster at the end. I think we.
Yeah, I feel like if they're already an accommodator, they would probably do well with building rapport, especially like trying to match someone's energy or mirror what you're doing. Yeah,
I'm just making sure. I think we went through all of that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went through all that. But you came out strategic, contender. You came out INTJ, which is what we already know you resemble. So it's an interesting route to it. So we're going to go back to this. I might even try this one. That would be just you and the cat and the blanket, and that was back to us. There's lots of different ways of doing it. So narcissist mode, that way. that way, moderate narcissist, I don't know. Share screen, and then share screen that way, and then share the whole thing. But I'll go back to that for the moment. I mean, we could try that, and you get a little bit cut off. Anyway, so yes, NLP. Yeah, okay, here we go. Let's go for the bingo. Oh no, I'll move myself. There we go.
All right.
You were perfect before. Yes, so in terms of NLP, it was created by a couple of STPers. Having seen Bandler, yes, ESTP, very smart ESTP. He was a mathematician, all these other things. But again, some of the things he would do, like pretend to be a doctor, call himself Dr. Bandler when he didn't have a doctorate. Like, it was smart enough to have one, but like he
How many years ago was this? Was that something that was like allowed
in the 80s? Even recently, he calls himself Dr. Bandler, and it's like it's just part of the promoter thing. And I can see what I mean. His rationale
Dr. Phil did that. I don't know if
I think Dr. Phil's a proper doctor.
Oh, is he?
I think he's a proper psychologist. Sorry. But I think with Bandler is that ESTP. Right. So with right, we'll go back to this one. Right, with I'm late though. Ruth specific type. Yes. Ego block.
FI.
Always Fate Wind has given you a compliment saying that your FI is either lead or auxiliary. Now, she's just read a lot of NLP.
Maybe.
But yeah,
I think I use a lot of FI. I don't know.
So I think you asked me which types you think would be best for using NLP. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right. I personally think that ENFJ and ESTP would be good for using NLP because it's
what was the first one?
ENFJ.
ENFJ and ESTP.
Yeah, ESTP. I think ESTP because it has a focus on things that the ESTP is already good at. So it in terms and also things that they value but are not good at. So sensory acuity, calibration, really getting a good baseline of what people are like in terms of their emotional state when they're feeling certain things. So when you then see that person with that same micro expressions, you know what they're feeling based on your past experience. Very sort of ethics of emotions, not very good FI, but using body language very well to read somebody. So calibration. And so I asked Dario which type is. I asked Dario, is ESTP the best at reading body language? And his reply was ESTP and ENFP. Found that quite interesting. That was in his event, Matrix Insights. If you go to Matrix Insights, folks, scroll right down to the bottom, something like webinars. Click on that, and you'll find 4 Dario Nardi events on neuro secrets of SPs, neuro secrets of SJs, neuro secrets of MPs, neuro secrets of NJs. What else was I saying? Right, let's see if we can go back to the.
Which types would not be? Sorry, which types would not be good at NLP?
Well, if say INTP and INTJ, and we try and do like the social things in a cack-handed way, like if you're just there and you just mimic the other person completely, it's like it's going to look bad and it's look obvious and it's going to look like mimicry.
They might catch on.
If all the stuff with like the meta model, like with finding the errors in people's speech. When you read that, did you think, Ruth, I already do this? You know, when you saw the meta model errors, did you think that you already noticed those errors anyway? Ruth?
Sorry, the video is cutting out.
Okay, I'll say again. That's okay. So I'll say again. So the meta model stuff, you know, all the stuff about deletions, distortions, and have you looked at the meta model?
Not familiar with it.
Okay, when I showed it to Haley, it was like, well, it's the stuff that they do anyway, because INTPs and INTJs are very much aware of contradictions, logical contradictions. So things like, I'll quickly go through the meta model for people. Right, deletions. So this is about gathering information. So errors in terms of just missing out information. And so I remember it as nulk. Now, this is not an error, but it is an error from the point of view of ISTP. They don't like nominalizations. They don't like they don't like abstract nouns. They don't like it when a verb is changed into a noun. Because they think that when you change, because when you use a verb, there's a context for that verb. There's a context for the action. If you change a verb into a noun, then that noun doesn't need a context. But that context is very important to it. And again, this is part of the NE break in ISTP, and John Grinder ISTP. So he doesn't like abstract nouns. He likes things as concrete as possible.
Can you give an example of that? A verb become a noun?
A concrete noun, of an abstract noun. Okay. It's like, you know, when they do those things where, you know, when they talked about values and beliefs in NLP, you looked at it in the Enneagram and NLP book about they will express their beliefs as a nominalization. Fairness is very important to me. Independence is very important to me. It's like an abstract idea. It's like independent of what? What about your independence is most important to you? It's an abstract idea. Make it more concrete. It's in the book. Look at the book.
I have the book. I should go get it.
You have the book.
Yeah. On your suggestion, I got it.
Right. Yeah. On your and you could tell the audience what you think of the book. I think you put it number 2 in amongst your Enneagram books.
Can you hold it up? Is this one
hold it up. There it is. There we go.
Yeah, no. I put that one number 3.
Right, now you're back in the middle. Right. Oh, number 3. What's number 1 and what's number 2?
The complete Enneagram would be my first choice, and then the second one, personality selling.
Ah, right. It got moved up. So
it got moved up.
Before you read personality selling was. Oh, I remember now because I misremembered it. Yes, personality selling, which is this book,
the blue one.
The blue
Go
one.
buy it.
Go buy
you can find it. It's kind of hard,
especially for the NTs out there that need people skills.
Yeah. I think it's written by an 8. So.
Right. Pardon?
Type 8. I think wrote that.
Type. Do you think Type 8s might need that? Yeah, ESTP is like that kind.
I don't know if they need it, but
yeah.
They're good at teaching it.
There's a lot of them in sales. So, for example, I'll write on here. Right. A belief is a generalization we've made about ourselves and or the world and we are convinced is true. Beliefs are organized around values and are usually rules about how to achieve or avoid important values. Criteria are usually expressed as nominalizations. So this would be an example of nominalization. Fairness, responsibility, uniqueness, creativity, freedom, perseverance, warmth, responsiveness, boredom, inefficiency, tension, immobility, wastefulness. All of these things that can mean slightly different things to different people. And so, anyway, if we do the meta model, it'll be like a whole video on itself. I'll just go through them all. Nominalizations, unspecified verbs, leaving out how something was done, lack of referential index, leaving out who did it, Comparative deletions, better than what? Distortions, otherwise known as semantic ill-formedness.
So
MOL,
basically just being too vague about things.
Yeah, a lot of it. They want people to be specific.
Okay, so
and
just
again,
being
very,
unclear,
very
wishy-washy.
Yeah, and so it's almost like the meta model is like a critique of NFPs by STPs. Right. There we go. Now we're in the middle. So Ruth, can you see the thing? Maybe you could turn your webcam slightly, and then you'll get in the middle. Can you see the try thing at the moment?
Yes.
Right. There you go. Now you're in the middle.
Okay.
Right. I'll go through the ones for distortion. Mind reading. STPs hate this about NFPs. Where it's like they read what's going on in their mind and like they make character judgments about them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that can be true, but they can also be well off, because a lot of times STPs will say something just to get a reaction from it, because by how the person reacts, they find out information from them. But also they like to it just because they like poking people. If they get bored, they like to, it's banter. But generally, it's like banter. Locker room talk, as Trump would call it. What else? Mind reading. Reverse mind reading is where you assume that somebody else should know how you feel. Lost performative. Now, this means lost evidence. SJs do this a lot, where it says you should do it like this. You're supposed to do it like this. Who says? Who says we should do it like this? You've left out. You've distorted it. Why should we do it like this? It's the way that it's done. According to whom? Now, the idea is not to actually challenge people on these meta-model violations. It's to use it to give an example of how someone is deleting, distorting, and generalizing information. MOL and then CCP. Complex equivalence. That's just like Hitler. How is that like Hitler? It's like they make these odious comparisons. That's just like this. That's a complex equivalence. This means this. Does it really mean this? You're not looking at me, therefore you're not listening to me. See, that's a complex equivalence between looking away to not listening. It's assuming A equals B. So you see what I mean? Because the STPs don't like saying A equals B. They like to keep them separate. Whereas with the NE, with the transcontextual thinking, with the NFPs, A equals B. Especially if they feel it equals it, then they'll see it. There's a tendency, less mature ones. Complex equivalence, cause and effect. So complex equivalence, cause and effect, INTJ, INTP are going to see these errors very quickly. And then presuppositions. So, there's lots of presuppositions. Here's an example of a presupposition. There's presuppositions in typology, such as NE DOMs use NE just as much as SE DOMs use SE. I don't think that's true. I think SE DOMs use SE more than NE DOMs use NE. Because in general, people, I believe, use sensing more than intuition.
Yeah, you've mentioned that to me before. You said that anyone who's intuitive dominant doesn't use it as much just because they can't, if they're interacting with people, they kind of have to take on a different role socially. Yeah.
I mean, you could do NI, like you have to be on your own and sort of zone out a little bit. Do the you have to clear your mind a little bit like that, or because most of the time we're full of these senses, and even when I'm interacting with people here, and people say, "Oh, Ben, you're having an NE moment." Well, I'm still in the moment. I think maybe you could do that if someone is writing and it's they're really in their imagination. Then you could say, there's maybe more NI and NE going on. But I certainly think that I believe that society demands the use of certain functions more from others. So if you're at a Buddhist retreat, you probably are going to be using quite a bit of NI and SI.
Which function would you say is most valued in society?
TE.
TE, then which one?
CE.
SE?
Well, it depends on the society. If the society is very like sort of macho and militaristic, then and it also depends on gender. So, for instance, they might value SE more with males and SI more with females.
I think FE is valued in females.
Pardon, what?
FE.
Yeah.
Females.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of the SJ functions are going to be valued. Like you got TE in there, you got FE in there, you got SI in there. It's going to be valued. We've gone a little bit off topic, but why did I bring up the meta model? I brought up the meta model because I'm thinking that NTJs and NTPs are already good at the meta model. They're already finding out these little errors in people. But the stuff that they need to know, maybe the stuff with calibration, being more observant, watching people's body language. It's not a case of if somebody scratches their nose, it means a certain thing. If everybody scratches their nose, it doesn't mean the same thing. It's if that particular person does something that they've done before when they feel a certain way, and you've got a memory of that, then you have then if you've got a memory of all the things that somebody does when they're in various emotional states, and say you're not very good at reading like emotions anyway, but if you've got all this memory there, that's you're said to have calibrated the person because you are comparing what you see in front of you to all your past experience of the person, so you know how to read them. So, for example, another way of putting this would be, if you've lived with somebody for 20 years, then you know them better, probably, if you're a feeler, than the best body language expert in the world. That would be my opinion, because you've got greater experience of them. So it depends what aspects of NLP. All the stuff with interpersonal skills, NFJs already know that. So like ones have said to me that have been learning it, this is obvious, I know this already. Like the INFJs, all the stuff with people and like the people skills stuff, they pretty much know. They can get help with all of the planning stuff, well-formed outcomes, the posers thing, when thinking about outcomes. Is it stated in the positive? Is it what's your own part? Is the goal achievable just by you, or does it rely on other people? Is it specific? What's the evidence for that you know that you're progressing towards the goal? Do you have the resources in order to reach that goal? I've forgotten what the S is. Oh yes, is the goal the right size? Is it too big, over ambitious? Is it too small? If you achieve the goal, is it insignificant? Doesn't really move you forward. So well-formed outcomes, that I think is good for INFJs because they have that weak TE. So there's various aspects. So it's almost, it seems very beta quadra does NLP to me. Based on the people who created it. Sensory acuity, TI stuff. Oh yeah, they love NI as well. NLP loves NI.
Why is that?
Hypnosis, Milton, and all this stuff about unconscious competence. Grinder is always talking about getting it down so that you can do it on an unconscious level. ISTPs, they've got that launcher NI. Just like INTJ's got the launcher FI, so it's the tertiary function. Mm-hmm. That tertiary NI feeds ISTPs, especially the smarter they get. You've got that NI, and they're suggestive for that NI. So it's like NLP has the hots for hypnosis and unconscious competence. It's like, and also now somebody once told me, this was a German guy, and he said that he learned NLP from a particular German instructor, and he said that it was like he had inserted a zip file into his brain, and certain techniques were unfolding themselves and were coming out unconsciously through doing them. So it's almost as if a tendency with INTP is like to analyze the techniques and to think about rather than actually to do it. But you actually want to do it without actually thinking about it. Then it's not going to come across as phony, like with the rapport stuff.
Sure.
So I've got some advice out there for people who want to build rapport, and if I would suggest first concentrating on the person, having a general interest in them. But if you can't do that, match their breathing rate, because if you match their breathing rate, you'll end up matching their energy, and that's not obvious. Matching somebody's breathing rate is not obvious. Just don't do it if they're an asthmatic. All right. I don't get your reasoning for putting SI above SE because of the real representation in prisons. Hey, why did I put SI above SE?
Oh, and importance in society.
Oh.
Did you put it above it?
Yeah, somebody was asking about it because you asked which functions are most appreciated in society, I think.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that's because of guardians. That's why I put SI is valued, because of guardians. And also because a lot of society is procedural now. There's like particular jobs do it in a certain way. Now, when the society was simple, so it's like SJs are like the farmers, SPs are like the hunters, the hunter-gatherers. Adaptation, adaptability is a big strength of SPs. Executing, following procedure is a good thing of SJs. It depends on the characteristics being pulled from the functions. Construction workers, those in warehouses. Right, TESEFE. Okay, let's go through this. Right, okay, people have put in some good comments in here. Right, I get F. Check it out. Metaphors. TE for okay, yeah, TE. Yeah, SI. What I sort of mean by SI is just sort of guardian stuff in terms of, if we use like the MBTI definition of it, and the Berens Nardi definition, it's very much algorithmic logic. Do it like this. Solve this maths equation using this. Don't think for yourself. Follow this procedure. A lot of SI stuff, a lot of rote learning. SI procedural stuff. You do it like this. That kind of SI. Algorithmic logic, I call it. TES. The logic of work. Getting stuff done. Practical thinking. FE. Yes. Society, manners, all of these things. But another way of putting it is looking at the ratios of the various temperaments in terms of, like, you don't need that many NTs, you don't need that many NFs, but you do need the SJs and the SPs. Like it's like the natural distribution of the temperament would fit an economy. Now, the United States economy and the European economies are messed up because of various monetary policy things and taxation things where they don't have enough manufacturing. And so that's not good for artisans who are naturally, especially the STP, natural predisposition towards engineering and manufacturing. That kind of ST kind of intelligence. That brings in the STJs as well. I mean, Germany is a good example of, you can have very highly paid manufacturing jobs. You have very highly paid manufacturing jobs in Germany. And they have a very good education system for STPs. Makes sense, depends on the characteristics being. And again, it's about predisposition. Like that previous, what did we put, artisan temperament. I'll just put that back on screen. Here. They learn best experientially and when they see the relevance of what they're learning to what they're doing. Hands-on, applied learning with a fast pace and freedom to explore. So more kind of shop kind of based skills are good for the STPs. Now, of course, ISTP can get in towards computer programming as well, because then it becomes a tool for achieving something practical. What else? So, Ruth, I don't know what other you asked me about. You asked me a sort of question that's a sort of a hangout on its own. Any other questions?
I mean, I have more to talk about, but do you have to go?
Yeah, no, it's not. I just think that I want to do these as separate hangouts in the future, because you have agreed to do some NLP.
Yeah, we should get more people on board.
Yeah, are you happy to do the NLP hangouts in future?
Yeah, of course.
Right, so folks, I'm going to retitle this and then go plus a taster of NLP.
Okay.
Right, so we will do more on NLP, well-formed outcomes, all of that kind of stuff, and maybe how the different types can benefit from NLP, that kind of stuff.
That would be good.
Yeah. So it's like, everything's to do with interpersonal skills. The NFs are already good at that, but they they need to get better at all the stuff to do with well-formed outcomes and planning things out. Or maybe those types that
maybe some reframing.
Yes, reframing. Yes, especially those types that can get down on themselves, like 6. 6 needs to know how to reframe because it can get too negative. And also, Enneagram 7s need to learn how not to do too much reframing because they reframe it under the carpet, their troubles. Right, so I'm going to end the mirroring, breathing. I'm going to end the hangout, end the event now, and I'll continue talking to Ruth for a bit. So hopefully
thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to Ben's channel. He's almost at 1,000.
Thank you. Right, here we go. And we will do NLP in future. And it's going to stop. It's stopping.